Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with your host, Christina Nitschmann.
This is your host, Christina Nitschmann. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our sponsor is Winty Aviation T-Shirt Art. Winty is your one-stop shop solution for all your graphic art needs, from logos, business cards, book covers, and banners. Contact Winty today at winty.com. Our guest today is Doron Kastoriano, or is otherwise known in the aviation community as Captain Doron. Captain Doron worked as a commercial transport pilot and is now a highly sought-after, high-time flight instructor in New York. One of the things that makes Captain Doron's instruction unique is each and every flight is video recorded so students can review and better understand how to improve their skill. All of these wonderful videos are uploaded onto his very popular YouTube channel with over 2,100 subscribers and on a flight path to over 500,000 views. Check out Captain Doron's videos today at youtube.com/Captain Doron, D-O-R-O-N. Hi, Captain Doron. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. I'm so excited that you are able to join us for our 4th annual Aviation Month. I'm so excited to have you out here. Not everyone out there might know who you are, but you do a lot of amazing YouTube videos where you go out with your students, train them, and you videotape them. Before we go and share all that, share for our audience a little bit about your aviation background. What brought you to the world of aviation?
It started when I was 6 years old with my dad. You know, I was in the cockpit of a 747 flying to JFK, and I got fascinated by the whole instrumentation.
Wow.
The landing, avionics, power plant, the whole thing got me so hooked up. And that's the only thing I wanted to do for the rest of my life, just be into, aviation. I used to fly remote control airplanes until I got the funds to actually afford flying by myself. And since then, I haven't stopped. So.
Wow. So when you were a child, was your dad a pilot, I assume, that you were in the cockpit?
He wasn't a pilot. He was a maintenance supervisor. So, he was, very familiar with the airplane.
Yeah.
And very familiar with the crew. Mm-hmm. So he was able to put me in the cockpit and,
that's cool.
Kind of have hands-on experience of what's it like to fly an airplane. So.
And it's really neat because today a lot of kids are missing out because of what's happened in 9/11. A lot of people can't just scurry on up to the front anymore. And so sad.
No, those days are gone.
So sad. So sad.
You got to be a crew member. You got to be, with identification to get in the cockpit. It's very, very strict.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's sad because you had that blessing. Now, once you got up there and you got your training, you went to the world of commercial flying and cargo. And explain how that happened and how you got to doing that.
Well, you kind of build your flight experience from zero.
Yeah.
It's going to take, private pilot certification, instrument, commercial. You become an instructor to log experience as a flight instructor.
Yeah.
And then you can actually get an airline job depending on the experience and who's hiring. So the timing is very, very relevant.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. And then after about 3 years of flight instructing, I ended up landing a job in the airlines. And that's what I did for about 12 years.
Wow.
Until I decided to go back to instructing.
And unlike a lot of people who are instructing who are not really have a love for it. It's kind of like, as you said, building hours to go to the majors or to the major airlines. You actually came back to it because you have a great passion for teaching, and I can see it come through when you teach people. What do you think draws you to teaching in particular? Because I can tell you have a great passion for teaching in particular.
It's a lot of satisfaction, a lot of rewarding when you have somebody, even a child.
Yeah.
Like myself, when I started, experiencing, the flying, getting from zero to flying the airplane all by themselves.
Yeah.
And the look of the parents' eyes, just like, my dad when I was young, it's very, very rewarding just to see the backseat, parent looking at their child, experiencing the flying.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you take someone from that level of experience and advance to the point where they actually fly by themselves, that there is no other feeling in the world that will match to that. Absolutely. So it's very, very rewarding.
Wow. And I can imagine, maybe not, because I had a flight instructor. I went through like 5 different ones, and I only have not too many hours of flying experience myself. And I kept going from one to another, and they were not meshing with me. Some of them, one guy even told me, I hate doing this. I'm just building hours. He told me straight out. Yeah. And then and the other guy took calls the whole time during our lesson, which was lovely. I'm like, can you stop the calls?
It's unfortunately a majority of the flight time building is from becoming an instructor. So majority of the instructors do this to gain their flight experience to get to the airlines. Not all of them, you know, stay there and do it with a passion. I have a passion for teaching. I do it because I love doing it.
I can tell.
And I have a lot of, love of watching the person progress from 0 to becoming a real pilot. And I still talk to, some of my students. Some of them are flying, transport category aircraft, 777, and we socialize, and it's just amazing that you see someone that got their license with you back, 20 years ago, and they're actually flying a 777 all over the world.
Wow. So from all the students you've taught, how many years have you taught now?
I've been teaching full-time and part-time for about 20 years.
Wow, extensive. So you've taught quite a few students who've gone on to become pilots. What are some of the difficulties you see people go through, like the major hurdles that you see a majority of pilots go through, since you've worked with many of them?
As far as going
the training process.
Okay, the training process. It's kind of hard to divide time for training. It's expensive. It's not easy to get the funds for that. And you got to be highly dedicated person. You got to be able to set yourself a goal and stick with that goal. And not too many people are, able to do that. Now, if you combine all three together, dedicating the time, setting yourself a goal, and having the funds, it's hard to, make it happen. So I see that's the most difficult and the challenging. To be able to have all three of them together and be able to, accomplish your goal.
I don't know about you, but for me, one of the things that was really hard is getting engaged on all the information. There's so much information with learning, as you said, just the mechanics of the airplane, the mechanics of aviation, how to fly in 3 dimensions, and then talking to ATC. It's just a lot to get a handle on, and you feel like I know I felt overwhelmed. I feel like it's like I'll never get to a point where I can feel comfortable and be like, this will be second nature. Is it just something that...
It is true, and then that's going back to time and setting yourself a goal. So if you don't have the time to practice, repetition, and keep doing it often enough, and you're not mindset on just doing it and completing it, it's
going to feel like that.
That's exactly what the feeling that you experience is exactly what it is.
Wow. So now working before as an air transport pilot and now as a commercial certificate teacher, what would you say has been the greatest lesson you've learned through all of your experiences through aviation?
Basically fly the plane. Don't let anything go in the way, because there's a lot of distractions during flight training. There's a lot of distractions during weather emergencies, actual emergencies of, being a pilot. And I learned, the hard way that you have to fly the plane. That will be the most important thing with whatever you're dealing with. Is don't forget that somebody needs to fly the airplane. Then everything else. And I heard a scary thing about that. I saw a video of 2 guys that were flying, I think, in a mountainous area, and both of them started to sightsee and wasn't paying attention to the airplane and what's going on, and they unfortunately crashed into the side of a mountain. And it's unfortunate, because when it comes to a car, you can still crash and die in a car, but in an airplane, it's that much more like you got to be 10 steps ahead of an airplane. Things are coming much faster. Especially if it's high performance, high-power jet or turboprop that goes real fast.
Yeah, yeah. And I recall also, as you've gone on, you recently went to Alaska. Explain a little bit about that trip.
This trip kind of came out of, just talking to a fellow pilot, and he wanted to do it. And, he was asking me if I could join him for the trip.
Yeah.
And I said, absolutely, I would love to do it. I had a couple of things I had to do over there, meet a couple of friends, look at a couple of airplanes. So the timing was perfect. We had exactly 10 days off to complete the mission.
Yeah.
And we left New York, and we ended up in Alaska the same day that we left. We left at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're in a state of Alaska at Ketchikan at 9 o'clock in the evening the same day.
Now, that's amazing.
And the trip is just... It's very difficult to describe in words. You have to actually look at pictures, look at videos to actually experience the typical, mountainous terrain, the snow, the glaciers, the weather, the geography. It's just amazing. What an amazing place. And it's really a pilot's paradise because if you have a set of wings, you can just get anywhere you want and just, fly and explore, and it's unlimited ways of exploring out there. So
yeah. And I saw that you put all your videos online. So anyone who wants to go out there can go to check out all your videos, including those at where? Tell them where.
It's on Captain Doron on YouTube. That's my channel. And I also, if you click on Google Plus, you can actually see some of the stuff on Google Plus, which is pictures and videos.
Cool.
But you can scroll through the videos, and you can find part 1 through 13 of this mission and this flight and so forth. And it's and I get a lot of feedback from pilots all over the world that they can actually, sit at home and wait for the next video to watch because it's like a series. So it's a part 1, part 2, part 3. Yeah. So the latest trip to Alaska that I put on YouTube has been, I'm getting a lot of feedback and amazing, cool stuff coming from that trip because it's different.
Not everyone flies to Alaska.
Not just that, the type of general aviation airplane that we fly to get so far. It's amazing distance. It's almost 4,000 miles.
Did you fly the Luscombe for that one?
No, we actually flew the SR-22 Cirrus.
Okay, yeah. It would have taken you a heck of a lot longer in the Luscombe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is half the speed. I mean, we're cruising at 71 knots. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but it was great to actually see those videos. And that's what's really awesome about your videos is that anyone interested, even if they're not a pilot, can gain a great deal of knowledge from watching your videos.
Absolutely.
Because what it is, you just put the video on and you start teaching.
Everything is there. Yeah. Everything is there. I mean, some stuff is just laid back cruise, ATC, talking on the radio. Yeah. Some music, talking about flying. But, I always try to involve some kind of teaching. Yeah. In any airplane you fly, all you have to do is open up the POH, and everything's there. You can start a lecture, guide the discussion. You can do everything from the POH. Everything's in there, and you can talk to the other pilot or the student and try to, transfer some learning as you fly along, which is generally what I do. So.
Yeah, I just noticed that. And what do you see on the horizon for your videos? Are you going to continue to do it like this? Or?
Absolutely, as long as it's going to be interesting, multifaceted, unique, and we're actually planning a trip next year to Greenland and Iceland.
Oh my gosh!
Across the Atlantic, so it's going to be very, very unique.
What bird are you taking for that one?
Probably the same airplane, because it's one of those...
SR-22?
Yeah, it's one of those fast, piston cross-country machines, so you can actually do it with that aircraft. So.
Yeah. Well, I know that you were a transport pilot, and now you're doing the teaching. Is there a big difference to what you did being a commercial pilot and now working as a teacher? Is there a lot of difference to that type of flying?
Absolutely, a great deal of difference. Generally, transport category aircraft, you're locked into one aircraft. There's a certain guideline that you're following, that you're flying, the standard operating procedure. If it says, you know, they have to use the autopilot, you have to use the autopilot. If it says that at 200 feet you cannot, you know, or you cannot hand fly or whatever, you got to follow those guidelines. With flight instructing, you create the guidelines as long as you're safe and, you know, you obey by the regulations. You kind of create your own rules, you know. So if you want to fly all the way down to Alaska, you can do it. There's no restrictions.
So that could be one of your long cross countries.
Absolutely. And the other advantage that I see in flight instructing is that you get to fly all sorts of aircraft. It's never boring. I mean, I can wake up in the morning, do a test flight on an experimental aircraft, jump into a light twin, fly to Luscombe for about an hour and a half, have a student pilot solo at Cherokee. From there, fly a G1000, SR-22, and finish up a PC-12 trip to Florida. And it's nothing you can have that in the airlines when you're locked into one airplane. The other, you know, advantages is you kind of set your own schedule. If you don't want to fly, you just don't fly. You know, you don't have like a certain monthly schedule and you look and you see those are the days off. That's what I'm going to do. It's kind of a different, you know, schedule. The other stuff we talked about earlier is the rewarding effect of having somebody that doesn't know anything about aviation, being a teacher, being a mentor, being an instructor, you know, recommending a certain path to their goals. You know, I'm like kind of a lawyer, you know, this is what you need to do to achieve your goal, and this is the best route and the most affordable way to do it. So I feel like people come over to me for advice. More than just, you know, teach me how to fly. And I get those phone calls all the time. You know, we set up a meeting, we talk. You don't have that when you're, you know, when you're flying passengers or cargo for hire. It's a different ball game. Yeah, because you're working under someone else's ticket. So you have a boss and he says you need to be there. And is there any ever a situation where, hey, you're flying, but it's not particularly safe, and what if your boss says, hey, I need you to get the transport there? Can you, as the pilot command, say no, or do pilots just end up doing it because they need the pay? You know, it's a very, very interesting question. There's some kind of a communication between the director of operation and the piloting command to complete the flight. So there's always a steady, you know, flow of communication between the two. So you can't just do your own thing. You have to talk to flight control. You have to talk to the director and explain your opinion and why you did that. And if you do that, make sure you notify. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to get to that destination. The runway is wet. We're not going to be able to stop. We're diverting to wet a runway that's not as wet or dry. So, you know, that's kind of different. When you're with a student, you know, they're more relying on you because of your level of experience, and they trust you. I mean, they put their life in your hands a lot of times because they have no clue how this thing flies and what's it going to do and how it's going to behave. So I get a lot of those calls from, no, just sit there. Just sit there. Let me know if I'm doing something wrong. And it's kind of a, you know, laid-back kind of job. You get paid to just kind of sit there and be in the air at the same time. And have a good time, absolutely. I make friends, you know, by, you know, flight instructing. I fly with a lot of guys, and we become friends, and we socialize after the flight. And it's a community. Absolutely. And it gets to a point where, why would they call someone else if they can call me? Why would I call him? He's my friend. I'll call him. He will fly with me. So now you're talking about an interesting part of business and being a CFI. Absolutely. Because it's not just going out there and saying, I'm just going to go to the airplane. Because like I said, I had several CFIs who were not really in it. They weren't present, taking phone calls during the flight. They were there to build flight time and get on with the airline. But if you're serious about teaching and you've got a passion for it, like what you're talking about, building that friendship, building that mentorship will really also help you build your business as a CFI. Absolutely. I get a lot of business from people that are friends with, repetition, people that, you know, refer, you know, other people to me, and it kind of grows by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems to me that you make it first about the person, which can be applied to all businesses. That you don't focus on, hey, I just want to go out there and make hours or just make money, because it is, you do want to make money from your venture, but you also want to help people. So you make it about people first.
Absolutely. Customer service. Always customer first service. Try to accommodate the schedule as much as possible. Yeah. Be friends with your clients or students to the point where they will go somewhere else and then turn around and come back. If you kind of dedicate yourself to that, you're going to be gold.
Yeah.
The other stuff I do is after the lesson, I hand an SD card to my student so they can put it on their computer and they can review the lesson.
Fabulous.
Unlimited time.
That's great.
And you know what? They catch up and I say something during the lesson, like, make a left turn. You see that point over there? They're not even listening. They're so focused on flying. They're not even listening to my instruction. But then I get that feedback after the lesson. They go back and say, you know how many times you told me to turn left and look at that point? 5 times. I wasn't even listening. I was locked in the controls, completely oblivious of what's going on. And it helps to realize, hey, there's an instructor over there.
That's great.
And, you kind of relive the lesson after it's already done. And you can pick up on a lot of mistakes and a lot of stuff that you can correct for your next lesson. So.
That is such a great point. I mean, a number of years ago, I told people on my show that I did my first talk, and it was videoed. And I thought I did pretty good. People told me it was great, but guess what? After the video, I saw I was doing a whole bunch of crazy things with my pens during my talk. And that also, when I was flight training, I actually took a journal. So I would actually write my hour home, write down what happened during the flight training.
Beautiful.
But this is even better because now I could think I know what happened during the flight training, but the video will tell me a different story sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. When I was training to become an instructor, a professor, from the university, had a PhD. He was a flight instructor, a lot of aviation background and teaching background. He used to record the instructor applicants, record them, and then give a cassette. Back in the days, 90s, it was a VHS cassette. It was a big, not little SD card. It was a big VHS cassette. He would give that cassette, you put on your VCR, and you watch how you teach and how you react to the camera and the questions that the students have.
Yeah.
And, I remember I had the dry erase marker, and I was going like this with the dry erase marker. And I'm like, I will never do this again. If I do put something on the board, that dry erase marker goes right on the board and stay there.
It's a big lesson.
And you can kind of relive the lesson, and you can see the mistakes and become so much better and improve yourself by doing so. So it's very helpful.
Great tool. Absolutely.
Excellent tool.
Yeah. I think more flight instructors should bring cameras on board. It's a great tool.
It is great, and I'm very disappointed that majority of them do not.
Do you think it's a legal issue? Do you think they don't do it because maybe something will go wrong during the flight and they're worried about that?
Even then, if something does go wrong, you can relive that lesson and see the mistakes, see how you can treat that emergency in a different way. And it's like a little cockpit voice. I mean, the transport category aircraft has cockpit voice recorder and flight data computer.
Wow.
If you get the camera right there and put it right on your instruments and you can listen to the ATC and the cockpit communication, it's like a transport category aircraft on a little Cherokee or a Luskin. You can actually document the flight, look at the speeds, look at the altitude, and listen to the air traffic control communication. And intercom, conversation between the pilot and the student, instructor, student, and so forth. So I only see a good thing in that. I really don't see any disadvantage. Yeah.
I see that technology being very instrumental tool, but I want to get your take now being an instructor on what you think of a lot of the glass cockpits. There are a lot of stuff and gadgets. I personally feel overwhelmed by it. I mean, how do you feel it is for a primary student to work with all that glass stuff? Do you think it's a deterrent to learning or?
I think you should initially have your basic stick and rudder skills.
Okay.
Primary trainer, become proficient enough in flying the airplane. And when you get that down, then you can step it up to all the electronics and gadgets and so forth.
Yeah.
I think going right into a high tech is kind of disadvantage to you. Because you rely so much on it. And
Yeah.
you keep on pushing buttons, and you get to the point where the airplane doesn't do exactly what your airplane wants, what you want the airplane to do, and instead of disconnecting everything and flying the plane, you try to fix it and keep pushing buttons, but it's not, it's just, it can end up in a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just recently, 2 airline transport pilots on the transport category aircraft, ended up at a disaster from too much automation of forgetting to just fly the plane. They tried to program the FMS, try to make it do what they want, but it wasn't doing it, and it ended up in a disaster.
Wow.
And it's very high, high time experienced pilots.
Yeah.
And you kind of look and you surprise yourself, like, wow, how can this happen? So, automation is good, but don't rely on it too much. Don't forget that you need to fly the plane, as I mentioned before.
You sound like my flight instructor. Fly your plane first.
Fly the airplane.
Yeah. And
that's always going to be number one. Fly the airplane.
Yeah, and that's very important. I mean, I know for me, when I'm flying with Brian, sometimes we will go flying and we'll set that GPS up, and bam, you see that red line. You're like, I'll just follow the red line. And here you're flying the GPS instead of looking out the window, paying attention to your map. Where am I? If the map goes out, if the GPS goes out, where am I? And do I know where I am so I know I have situational awareness?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Very important. Well, what would you tell anyone out there who's listening who wants to become a pilot, who's on the edge, a little uncomfortable with it? What would be your advice to them?
Do it.
Do it. What are you waiting for?
Don't wait. Just
Call Doron today.
Do it, because I see a lot of opportunity in becoming airline pilots, commercial pilots, corporate pilots, flight instructors, simulator instructors. The aviation industry is going through a real change because of retirement age.
Yeah.
Increase in population of pilots. And the next 10 years are going to be just booming. I mean, even the next 20 years. I mean, I can see a lot of opportunity, and it will be a great career. I mean, when you look back, it wasn't that great because of bankruptcies, reorganization, and airlines buying airlines and so forth. But the future is just bright. Do it. Pick up the phone, call a flight instructor, call a flight school, and become a pilot. It's a lot of freedom, and it's a lot of satisfaction.
Fabulous. Well, where can they call you, Captain Doron? Because I know you're on YouTube, but if they want to call you and fly with you.
Absolutely. Just pick up the phone, 917-676-5414. You can shoot me an email on captaindoran@gmail.com, or text me on my cell phone. I can accept any of those and put you right on the schedule. No problem.
Well, that's fabulous. Well, I thank you so much for coming out today to share your gifts and knowledge and wisdom in flying. Thank you so much.
Anytime. It's been a pleasure, Christina. Thank you so much.